Hello to all you cinephiles out there.
What's up?
So we are back with another review. We are going to be reviewing It Chapter 2, and yeah, let's get started.
Okay.
What?
So I guess I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to this movie. Like I've been so excited about this movie for like the last couple months, especially because they released some really good trailers for the movie, especially the second main trailer they released. It was just so good. That is one of the best movie trailers in general I've ever seen, and I think it's the best trailer for a horror movie I've ever seen. Like it was like, but of course this is not just a horror movie, this is a blockbuster movie because it's like basically like it's because it was given a very big substantial budget, and of course like we all know blockbuster movies are the only ones that really make it into those really huge screenings of XD, IMAX, you know, whatever the heck else there is, and both of those movies made it into those kind of screenings because the quality was that high. It had that high of a caliber of quality, and the first one was amazing, and the second one was good too, but that's the point I'm getting to, is that the second one, I'm not gonna lie, was a little disappointing, but it wasn't a complete letdown. It just wasn't as good as the first, and I really thought it was going to be better. I really thought it was going to outdo the first movie, but it's still pretty good, and it's still really enjoyable, and I wouldn't say it's a total failure. It just could have been better, that's all.
Yeah. No, I share your same sentiments. I wasn't as excited as you. Not because I wasn't, just I don't know, maybe I didn't want to overhype it, but I was still excited for it, and yeah, I can kind of say I was a little disappointed, but not disappointed in terms of like, man, this was horrible. It was just I don't know, I was expecting more scares, more epicness. There was some of that at times, but yeah, overall I was expecting, because I heard like, oh man, this is scarier than Chapter 1. This is great. And
we had Stephen King's famous tweet after he saw the movie early. The only thing he said was the final encounter with Pennywise is epic. And that's all we were given. And it was, and you know, a bit. Like I don't know. Like I saw it twice, and the second time, I don't know. I appreciated more things, but then I was able to analyze some more things more, and I think everything, I like just about everything in it, except for like a lot. Oh yeah, no, there's like one thing, there's like a few things I don't like, but they all roll into one. I really don't really care for the flashbacks with the kids. Like a lot of them are kind of bad, and whenever I saw it again, like they feel like inconsistent to the point where I'm like, I doubt that happened.
Yeah.
I don't believe that happened after the first one.
right.
Okay, so basically, you know the end of the movie, whenever they see the scars are gone, and then they look at the window, and they can see the reflection. Then we see the reflections of the young kids with all their bikes, and then apparently, it's right after they beat it as kids, and then they're all going home. Well, and then they're all going home together, and they're joking around and everything, which I see what they were going for, but here's the problem. Beverly has her bike, and I was like, I don't see how that would make sense that she has her bike. That doesn't make, like, no one brought their bike with them. I'm sure they weren't thinking when they shot it, they just wanted all the kids to have their bikes, but really, that was an inconsistency, and then I just really felt like we didn't really need to see that. Like, I don't really see why we needed to see that. If they wanted to show us the reflection of all the kids, that's fine, but like keep it there. Don't like make it clear, oh no, that's a real memory from like, you know, after the battle. Like, it just didn't sit right with me. Like I like the kids, and I like you know what they tried to do with that scene, but I just don't think it works overall for the story, not for me at least. Dude, I have a really big problem with the younger Eddie in this one.
Okay.
One particular scene, I have a big problem with this one. Whenever they go to the hideout, apparently, that was brought into this movie, which the hideout's fine. I felt like they shouldn't have tried to add in new things, and then because it gave them an excuse to go back and show how the kids were there before.
Yeah.
And I felt like if you're gonna do that, like it doesn't. I see what you're going for, but it doesn't work that much. What they should have done, they should have kept to just retreading the old stomping grounds of what we saw in the first one, which they did a little bit, but then but they didn't do it well enough, or they just didn't do it. They just kept adding it. They just kept focusing on a bunch of new stuff,
Right.
and that they just brought in for this movie, and which is stuff from the book, and that's fine. But I mean, like, I felt like it overall hurt the sequel, and it added. And it really just padded the runtime. But back to what I'm talking about with Eddie is that whenever all the kids, like when it shows all the kids like show up to the hideout, as soon as Eddie starts talking, I felt like they just forgot what kind of character he was. Like, because he shows up and he starts acting like a dipshit. It's that part where he's like annoying the shit out of Stanley.
Okay.
And he takes the what are those things called? The bounce.
Oh, the paddle ball.
Paddle ball. He takes the paddle ball and he's just doing that towards Stanley, and he's saying a bunch of crap, and like he's acting like Richie is what's going on in the scene. And I thought to myself, Eddie didn't act like that in the first movie. That was not his character, and apparently this scene is supposed to be like right after the rock fight. Mm-hmm. In the first movie, and I was like, that's not Eddie. Eddie did not act like that. Like, I don't know why they're making him act like that. I don't know if the actor wanted to do that, but that's not, it just didn't line up to who he was in the first movie. Everything else, all the other kids were pretty much fine. They pretty much nailed their characters the same way they did in the first one. But it was clear that they'd gotten older, and it just feels weird. It's just to watch these clearly slightly older kids, again, like in that same summer, and it's like it just doesn't feel right. And it's like you can't expect me to look back, at the first movie and then back to this one and be like, yep, that all happened at this. No, like I can't do that because the kids are clearly older. It was a bad idea to do that. Now it was a good idea for them to use parts of a deleted scene to put into this movie for the kids. That's fine. Like what they did in the very beginning, they showed us that same part of the same thing we see at the end of the first movie, but they showed us a little bit more that they cut out this time, which was good because it's still the kids from back then, from when they shot the first movie, so they all look the same. But I guess they thought, well, if we're going to put the kids in at all, we got to really put them in there, and I felt like they shouldn't have. They should have just given us like as little bits as they could with what footage they had on the cutting room floor, left on the cutting room floor for the first movie.
Yeah.
Or whatever they wanted to reuse for the purpose of showing a further strengthening the story, of showing how like the kid, like I know they were trying to be like the kids, adults, they finally, whatever, it all comes full circle, whatever BS they were going for. Like, if they wanted to do that, that's fine, but like they should have only done it if they had whatever was left on the cutting room floor from the first movie. And other than that, no, it's got to be the adults' film. You can't the cut back and forth to their childhood memories. It adds runtime that's not needed, and I just felt like they really should have focused more. Like it should have just been the adults' film, like pretty much, like just pretty much solely the adults' film. Like I would have actually like been completely okay with like the kids not being in it at all. Just maybe that one scene at the beginning, and that's it. And then from then on, it's the adults' movie. Like they're all that we see.
Same way, I'm kind of on and off with the flashbacks. I didn't like the flashbacks where they pretty much showed what happened in the first movie, like the Beverly and Billy kiss again. Mm-hmm. I didn't care for that. It's like, look, all of us have seen Chapter 1, hopefully. Mm-hmm. We know that's happened.
I see what you mean. It's like, you don't need to do that. Just show them kiss as adults and we get it.
Yeah.
Like, we're not stupid.
Yeah.
Like...
So those kind of scenes I didn't like. There were times where I didn't mind the other flashback sequences that weren't in the first movie. But like you said, it's like, it kind of seems inconsistent when you watch the Chapter 1. It's like, did that really happen to Georgie, or not Georgie, Billy while they were split up? Did that really happen to Beverly when they split up? Did that really happen to Richie when they split up? It was cool to see, but at the same time, it was like, I don't know, that doesn't fit. And then the whole hideout thing, it's like, why didn't that show up in chapter 1 if there was going to be a chapter 2? Yeah, there was some times where Richie was noticeably getting digitally de-aged.
Oh yeah.
And it was kind of bad.
For the most,
A little bit with
I
Eddie,
think
too.
Eddie was the most. Eddie was like the most like horrific. Like not horrific, but like you could tell with Eddie a lot. Like it was bad because the actor really hit a growth spurt more than any of them. Like if you've seen him in interviews, like yeah, dude grew some facial hair and sprouted a few inches, and like he was clearly taller. And but like I feel like they successfully like did a great job of de-aging Richie. It was just his hair. His hair wasn't the same. It was the same look, but it wasn't as long. It wasn't as shaggy. You could just tell. But like I felt like the younger Richie looked really good in a lot of the scenes, especially that scene where he's crying, and then he looks up as like it is calling out to him. He looks up. He looks amazing in that shot. He looks really good.
Yeah.
Everyone else, it's like they either naturally looked close enough to that age. It was just a couple of them that was clear. Ben was pretty clear.
I never really noticed Ben, but I mean, you can tell the voices.
Yeah.
From the kids as their voices, but that's kind of hard to.
Ben is just clearly
de-age.
Ben is just clearly taller, and he just there's something up with his chin. I think his chin is bigger, or he's growing like his chin is starting to take a shape that he will have that he'll grow into and have the rest of his life. And it's just because it's something around there that I notice that looks different from the first one. That's just me.
Yeah. One scene that really took me out of the movie was when grown-up Eddie went down to that basement in that store.
Yeah.
And the zombie leopard guy came back and he got in his face and he threw up all over him.
Yeah.
And that song, Angel of the Morning, comes on. It's like, what the fuck is this playing?
I liked it, but then I didn't like how, as soon as they cut it away, I was like, okay, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Because I felt like if you're going to do that, you got to keep it going.
Yeah.
You got to keep it going or something. You can't just put it in there for 3 seconds and cut it out. The adult cast did an outstanding job on nailing these characters and being believable older counterparts of the characters. They did such a fantastic job in being cast and then doing the performances. They did great.
Yeah, Bill Hader steals the show as Richie.
Oh God, yes.
Yep. Yeah, whoever did casting on this
did
really knocked it out of
the
the
park. Did a fine job.
With both Richie and Eddie. Ben, I thought, was even great. Beverly was great. I'm still kind of on the fence about James McAvoy as Billy for some reason.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. And here, my thing is that I think he was a good choice because he is I think he's a believable older Billy in terms of like his looks, because him and that kid have the same sort of lips that are that sort of show a lot and are more reddish looking.
Yeah.
And they can both do the stutter with their lips or whatever, and that's really good. And McAvoy's a talented actor, and
sure.
And I felt like he was a good choice for Billy, but I felt like his character. So there were some parts of the movie where I really felt like he was either trying too hard or it was just. Or I don't blame McAvoy. I more so blame like how they directed him. And man, that whole additional like him trying to save the kid. I guess I know McAvoy said he felt like his character was missing a beat for the story, so he wanted something more. So they added in that entire subplot with the kid that gets killed in front of him in the mirror maze.
Yeah.
And it didn't sit well with me because one, I know a part of me really wanted him to save the kid, but two, like Pennywise killing the kid in front of him, didn't make sense because Bill offered himself up. And if Pennywise were actually smart, and if he was actually trying to kill the adult losers, he would have taken Bill in that moment. I'm sorry, but like he wouldn't kill the kid in front of Bill and give Bill an incentive to go after him to where, oh, now I'm going to kill you, and then like rally all his friends to him. Like, I'm sorry, but like Pennywise isn't. I don't believe Pennywise would be that stupid. This is an ancient creature. I believe has some intelligence, and I'm sorry, he's probably been plotting his revenge for 27 years. And even whether he's been asleep or not, like he made it clear he's dreamt of them. So I'm pretty sure, like, you know, he's not a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I felt like in that moment, like that's the dumbest thing to do. He said, "I'm here, take me." And he doesn't. It doesn't. It's just stupid. And also, like, the whole Henry Bowers thing, I felt like if they were going to do that, they really had to make it count. Like one of the losers had to be incapacitated or killed. Like, and honestly, they could have probably... Honestly, like, I know that before I saw the movie, I really wanted Mike to be in the final battle, because I wanted them all to be there. But here's the thing. I would only really want that for all 6 of them to be there, minus Stanley. I would only really want all of them to be there if it's justified. The thing is, if you put in Henry Bowers, you gotta have him, you gotta make it matter, you gotta make it actually have an impact on the story, and not just, oh, he ended up stabbing Eddie in the cheek. Big whoop. You know, great. Nothing else would have been different. Eddie just wouldn't have had a wound on his face. You know? Yeah. And, like, also I thought it was weird how he got stabbed, like, what, 3 times? And he just walks it off? Yeah. I was like, what the hell? No, you can't say that it is doing something, because clearly they put an axe in his head, and he's dead after that. Yeah. Like, it's a little like, come on. What rules are you laying down here? I don't understand. And I didn't really know how to feel about, like, Hochstadter's dead body coming back to guide him. I thought that was interesting, but not needed. Like, basically, you see the point I'm making. Like, Henry should have killed one of them. He pretty much should have just either killed Mike or taken him out of the fight, like in the original. Honestly, like, probably just could have just killed Mike, and then the ritual chewed is shot to shit, and they're like, okay, well, we don't know what to do, and then or Mike says, I prepared for this, take these instructions, and then he just dies, or he tells them what they have to do. They go and do it, and they muck it up, and then they're like, fuck, we have to figure something else out, and then it becomes like, we just have to stand up to him. Yeah. We have to fight back. And as far as the final battle goes, it's pretty good. It makes sense that Pennywise would take on such a large and dangerous form, because, I mean, if you think about it, the kids beat the living shit out of him in the first movie, so he was able, for some reason, to take on a bigger form where they can't physically fight him. They can't physically fight him and physically overpower him like they did in the first one. I think it really should have just been like they needed to fully stand up to him. And I like the idea they went for, make him feel small, stand up to him, like show him we're not afraid, and then like, but like hurling insults at him, just yeah. Like, especially at one point, McAvoy just looks like he's just senselessly yelling, yeah, yeah. I shit you not. He sounds like he's just yelling at him. He's just screaming, yeah, like whatever. And I'm like, what are you saying? Are you saying anything, or are you just screaming at him? And I was like, honestly, if you were going to go for something like that, you had to illustrate it differently, or to where it would hit more home. And I really felt like the way to do that would have been to start off with Bill, you know, reciting the phrase, he thrusts his fists against the post and still insists he sees the ghosts. It's from the book, it's in the original 1990 miniseries, and it was in the first movie. It was said and I don't know if it was ever said in this one, in that chapter 2. I don't know if it ever was, but it was in the first movie, even though we didn't ever really get to hear Bill say it completely. We only ever heard it say it at the end. Pennywise said at the end when he was afraid of the kids. Yeah. But Bill should have recited it as he stares down Pennywise. Like, he stands against him, and Pennywise is coming at him, and then everyone has his back, and they all start saying it together, and then Pennywise, and they just keep saying it. They keep walking towards him, and then Pennywise shrinks down, and then they can just do whatever after that. I don't care how they kill him, but like, it had to make more. And also, like, when he shrank down, I felt like whenever Mike reached for to get the heart out of him, and then Pennywise went for that last scare, and Mike was like, or whatever, I felt like that was a mistake. What they should have done was Mike not flinch.
Yeah.
He should have not flinched, and he should have been like, you don't scare us anymore. You're nothing. And then they take the heart and and they crush it.
Right.
Or whatever. That would have been more powerful. Like, it's just, missed opportunities, or just ways it could have been better is all. And man, but this movie, like, the way I was looking forward to it so much, I just want to sit down with the directors and the writers and be like, what made you think this was a good idea? Like, that Richie. I liked how Richie was about to quote Die Hard, "Yippee-ki-yay, mother!" And then he gets catatonic immediately by the deadlights.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny how he's just like, or whatever. And what's funny is that his legs go inward,
Okay.
and then his arms are dangling.
Right.
it's really funny, but the moment is kind of like, do I laugh or am I supposed to be horrified? Like, what the heck am I? It was weird because there are parts in the movie where, just a couple parts, where you're like, I don't understand if I'm supposed to laugh or be horrified right now. Which one am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there are parts that are they're clearly supposed to be kind of funny. I really like the part where when Richie is like, okay, like whenever like Pennywise encounters him in like the big open park area, and he says, "I know your secret, your dirty little secret," and then he gets up in his face, and then Bill Hader just holds his eye, okay, it's not real, and then you can actually see the color fade back, and it's like, okay, he's coming out of it. It's not going to be there. And then when he opens his eyes, and Pennywise is like, or whatever, and then he goes, and he just runs off. I love it when a Pennywise is like, come back and play, and then he goes, come back and play with the clown, and then his face stretches out and becomes long.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny and entertaining, and I kind of liked it. And I was like, okay, I like that. That's weird, and off-putting, and a little funny, and I appreciate that. I really loved Ben and Beverly's though. Ben and Beverly's, that's got to be the greatest moment of the whole movie. Is whenever they're both, she's about to drown in her blood, he's about to get buried alive, and in that moment he professes his love for her to her, and it saves them both. It snaps her out of it, or she realizes he's nearby, or he's not that far away.
Yeah.
And she gives her the courage to fight, and because I felt like, she couldn't save herself, but she was like, I gotta save Ben. In that moment, I think as she was dealing with that, she just forgot all about him. And then when he called out to her, she was like, oh my God, Ben, I have to get back to Ben. Ben is in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she finally was able to get to him, like, she pulled him out, and then in that moment, she realized it was him that wrote the poem, and it was just amazing.
Yeah.
So amazing. And I love how he's crying out to her, like, he's crying out the poem, like, your hair is winter fire, January embers, and then he's trying to finish it, but he's getting buried with all the dirt. He's like, my heart, and then she's like, Ben, and she grabs him, and then they both recite the poem to each other, and she's like, oh my God, it was you. And I love it. It's so powerful. I just love. That's probably the best scene of the whole movie.
I guess other parts that I do like, that Beverly Ben scene is great. I do like the kind of the references that they bring back from chapter 1 into this movie. Like, for instance, at the finale with the 3 doors of Scary, Not So Scary.
Yeah.
You see in one of the doors, you see legs come up, and that was supposed to be that girl's legs from the first one. I forgot her name.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool that they brought that back.
Yeah, because first one, they entered the door not scared at all, and they saw her hanging with no legs.
Yeah.
And then they went to very scary because Richie thought, he's fucking with us. We chose that one last time. We need to go this one, and then it's her legs, and he's like, oh god. And so that was funny how it was flipped.
Yeah.
And that was, yeah, you're right. That's a nice callback.
I don't know how I feel about to talk about the beginning. I don't know how I feel about Stanley's suicide being the reason why he killed himself is to give the losers a strong decision to go back and to bring them all together. That his suicide was going to bring them all together, and they were going to be stronger because of what he did, rather than what it was in the book. And I'm assuming the miniseries was that he was just so afraid.
Yes.
To go back to Derry that he just couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
I'd rather that had been the case.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, especially because, I don't know, it was just weird bringing that suicide note in saying like, hey, I'm doing this because of this, and it's going to make y'all stronger. But at the same time, you left your wife too.
Yeah.
For that, so it's like, I don't know.
But the note, I think the note implies that by taking himself off the board, as he put it, and okay, I need to make sure I'm on my train of thought here.
Yeah.
By taking himself off the board, he knows that it makes the losers. It'll because he'll be too afraid to go back. Doesn't he say something along the lines? I know I've seen it twice, and you've only once.
Yeah.
I think he says something along the lines of, by taking myself off the board, I wouldn't have been too afraid to go back. And how does that help them?
Yes,
I don't remember how apparently it was supposed to help them. I think the movie just basically implies in his letter that because of the rule established by Beverly, the whole like if we don't come back and deal with this, we die.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he said like I had to take myself off the board because I couldn't come back, and therefore like if I refused to come back, that would have just like made y'all weaker. So I had to kill myself, or whatever. But it doesn't really. It just doesn't make it. It's too complicated. It doesn't make any sense. It's a little too thought provoking, and it's like no, like just let him be too afraid to do it. Fuck this thing. Let's go kill it. That's what the attitude should have been, and it wasn't. And I was like, why? Mm-hmm. I understand like childhood trauma is like a big deal, but like you don't have to do it to the point to where they're all too afraid. Like just have them clearly be afraid, but then they muster their courage to stand up to him of their own free will, not because they have to. Yeah. Which I know that by the end of it, since they were all trying to back out anyway, they somewhat had free will going into the fight, but like it just was knocked down a peg or two by that incentive given. If they had just solely had the choice to face it, nothing and no consequences if they don't, that would have been more powerful. That is a message of taking it upon yourself to face evil instead of running from it. You know, which they could have ran from it, but they in the book and the miniseries they could have ran from it, but they didn't. They faced it. In this one, they just try to like throw that. Oh, they have to fight. That you're just taking away from the powerful message of the story.
Also, didn't really like the troll old woman. Yeah, I didn't really care for that. I mean, I was expecting naked old lady with sharp teeth and maybe some black eyes or something.
Yeah.
Not gray troll doll.
Yeah, I really. It was definitely freaky looking. It definitely was very off-putting to me and unsettling.
Yeah, for sure.
But I felt like they really should have gone for something a little different.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I think in that scene they probably should have laid back on the CGI effects and maybe gone for something using practical effects with a little bit of CGI to make it look more real and terrifying. Because people always go back and forth being like, oh, well, go practical. No, go all CGI. Is it too much to ask for both? Mm-hmm. I mean, using some practical makeup and whatever limbs you can do, and then touching it up with CGI is always a good way to go. But this movie, like even the Paul Bunyan thing looked pretty fake at times. It was pretty cool to look at, and it got me. For me, it was the biggest jump scare in the movie, and it got me good. And I thought it was cool to look at, but I could Second time around, I was like, yeah, that thing looks a little fake, like at times. Stephen King's cameo was pretty good.
Yeah, it was nice to see Stephen King.
I can't believe you didn't. Did you not know it was him until he showed his face, until he lowered the whatever he was reading? Did you not know it was him until he did that?
I guess so. I mean, I just saw his face and I was like, hey, it's Stephen King.
Because I remember, like you said that right as he lowered his magazine, where the hell he was reading, and right as they showed him as he was talking and half his face was covered, I knew it was him because I could just recognize some of him.
Yeah, I have to see his whole face because I mean he's not a face that I've seen a lot of. But
I hear you.
know of.
I guess I've watched a lot of his people review him, so I've seen his face a lot, so I just know his face. And
also like the fact that Eddie's wife is the same actress.
it's the same actress as his mother. Yeah,
that's cool.
That is cool.
Funny.
I wasn't. I was pretty sure that the first time, but then afterwards I was like, I don't know. They probably got something that looked a lot similar. Second time I watched it, took a good look at her. I was like, yeah, that's the same woman. That's the same woman. Yeah, that's her. And they did a good job making her look different.
Yeah.
But like, and honestly, like if she hadn't had many scenes in the first movie, you probably wouldn't have known that. But it's because of one scene in particular. And it's not the scene where she chases Eddie out of the house. It's not that scene where he confronts her about his pills. It's not the scene where she only has 3 scenes. The one where she says goodbye to the boys as they leave, and then whenever Eddie like confronts her about his pills, and then when she takes Eddie away from the losers. Those are her only 3 scenes. It's that when she takes Eddie away from the losers. That's when you can see like her whole face and the shape of it and everything. And if it weren't for that scene, I don't think I would have recognized that it was the same woman in the second movie. What did you think of the ritual chew? Because that's from the book.
Yeah.
Which I'm so surprised they brought in.
I don't know. I feel like the Battle of Wills thing would have been cool if the whole Battle of Wills was them in their individual nightmares confronting their childhood fears.
Yeah.
But
that would have been cool if they all went through something like that. But I don't. Yeah, and like I said before, like it sucks. Only half of them really do.
Yeah. So I think that would have been cool with that. The whole Pennywise backstory was cool to a thing, but when I left, I still didn't get what it was. Didn't know if he was made of deadlights or if the deadlights is in him. Because in the first one, when he opens his mouth to hypnotize Beverly, the deadlights come from within his throat. But yet in this one, comes down from like a big well-looking thing that kind of has sharp-looking teeth.
It looked like it was like the inside of his throat again in the first one a little bit.
And then when he's big and he does that whole big thing to Richie, when he goes catatonic for that little bit, the deadlights are behind him. They're not really in him. They're like shining through him.
They're channeling through him or whatever. Yeah.
So
me too. I'm kind of let down that they didn't like further. I thought that there was going to be a moment where like when all the losers like gathered back together, they were going to sit down and they were going to like be like, okay, well we got to figure out the hell this thing is, and there's going to be like, and Michael's going to be like, this is what I have so far, but like I still can't make a lot of sense of it. Like I need help.
Yeah.
And this is what I have, and then they all just ruffle through it, and then they figure out what it is, and then it's made clear to us what it is. It's made clear to us what it is. They just describe it. They're just like, okay, well, it apparently is, it's just evil or whatever. It's just the deadlights. It's not from Earth, and then we can have a joke from Richie, like, wait, you tell me this fucking thing is not only is it not just a clown, but it's made of light, and it's from fucking outer space. It's an alien, and then he just that would have been a nice joke from Richie, or whatever. And it's just a missed opportunity, and it would have allowed the movie to like further explain to us what the deadlights are, like what are they? Because all we're told, it's light, that's to be snuffed out by darkness. Okay, great. Like that doesn't answer my question.
Yeah, because I mean, when they smushed his heart, they just go green, and they're still there.
Yeah.
And the whole well's falling apart. But you never really see them extinguished. I guess you just assume that they get buried or something.
Oh no, the light it gets extinguished.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it just happens rather quickly. Ish. It happens right as soon as they crush his heart, and he flicks away. Like after he flicks away, when he flicks away, the light just goes out like a candle. kind of.
I
It's just
remember green lights.
well, they leave off like green specks,
Okay.
like but they when they fade out, they turn like they leave off like a green like embers that are like left from them. It's like that and that's what happens. That's what I remember seeing when I saw it the second time. I understand like the heart thing, like because like that whole rule of like it has to abide by the laws of nature of whatever physical body it inhabits. That makes sense. So therefore, if it takes on a form for them to fight, if they can get at the heart, they'll kill it.
Right.
But a lot of people said like, you know, the whole thing that in the first movie, they should have just remembered what they did. They weren't afraid of it and they stood up to it, and then but it felt like they couldn't remember that. They had just not reshot anything with the kids. I think it may have been a studio decision. The studio may have been like, look, people love the kids. Get the kids in there more in the sequel. We want the kids in the sequel. Like for flashback sequences, we don't care. And I think they were like, okay, well, we gotta shoot some more things with the kids now. I felt like that was never the original intention. I would be a little surprised. I would be, what is it? I wouldn't be surprised, but I wouldn't think this would be true. That it's the director's decision to put the kids in there more. I think it may have been a studio decision. No, we want the kids in there more. The people love the kids. The kids is what made the movie a smash hit. You need the kids in the second movie more. Like we know it's going to be the adults movie, but you need to put the kids in there. You know.
As a whole, I really do enjoy this movie. I would like to see it again, but I'm not going to go see it as much as I did the first one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were some references that I liked from the first one. There were some flashbacks that I liked. I wish that it was more about the adults rather than the kids. Mm-hmm. I do think that there was a missed opportunity to kind of explain, not explain, but go into depth more about Beverly's abusive husband, and how she dealt with that throughout her life. But, oh yeah, and probably also, I wanted to see more about why Pennywise is choosing this clown form when he can change into pretty much anything, because I thought there was going to be kind of a backstory about that, of him choosing this clown form, which is why I thought...
Yeah, I really thought they were going to really hit more home with that as to why that's a thing, and it really looked like that's what they were going to do, but like that's not. It was just a
small scare in the Beverly scene.
That's it, and I was like, "Are you serious? That kind of sucks."
Yeah.
And I was really hoping for like a whole origin story with Pennywise. That would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that's why it was going to be so long, because we were going to have like 20-something minutes with an origin story of Pennywise. But the last thing I'll say about it, the last main thing I'll talk about, is Richie, and you know what I'm about to talk about. Honestly though, I'm not going to like. I know when I first brought this up to you, Nick, it was more critical, but this isn't going to be as critical.
Okay.
This is just going to be like what I think they should have done with it. So in this movie, Richie is. It is heavily implied, and it's like they all but say it basically. It's basically made clear to us that Richie is gay. Richie is gay, and he was in love with Eddie, and the movie makes this clear to you. And but they never say he's gay, and he doesn't ever say he's gay. But yeah, they make it very clear he's gay and that he was in love with Eddie. This is actually, I think, a good idea. And it would have been an awesome story beat for him had they actually really done something with it, instead of just had it be like a background thing about him that we learn. Mm-hmm. Had it been brought into the actual like conflict of the story, or just had it been brought up to everyone at some point, then it would have meant something. But to me, it's just a detail we know about him now. We just know that he's gay. You know. We now know his sexual orientation, great, but like they didn't really do anything with it in the story other than make it clear to us that he was gay and that he's dealing with it or whatever. Richie is a closet homosexual. He hasn't come out. He, for some reason, like in the year of 2019, hasn't come out and said he was gay, which is fine. But I feel like given that it's 2019 and that that stuff is. It's very, like, you can come out and be gay and be proud about it and no one's going to have a problem with you. just about, like, no one will probably openly have a problem with you about it. That is like, there should have been no problem with him saying, like, I felt like they should have had him say at some point to his friends that he was gay. So here's my two. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a great story beat for the character, and here's my two problems with it of why I think they don't really do anything with it. One, I really think if they were going to do this, they should have had a plan from the get-go, and I personally believe they didn't. I know they were able to play it off really well off the first one because he gives Eddie so much shit in the first one and jokes around with him, and he's always making these overcompensating jokes. Oh, my dick's big, I'm not a virgin, I've had sex, or da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. He's making all those jokes, and it makes sense to us that, now, you can go back and you can play off very well of like, oh, okay, he was just overcompensating because he was secretly gay. I could see that, but I disagree. I don't think they had it in mind at all. If they say they do, I believe they're lying. Because I believe that if that were the case, they would have and should have given us a very small hint that further indicates that he could be gay in the first movie. Because I didn't hear anything about a possibility of Richie being gay in the first movie. I didn't hear anybody saying that over the last 2 years when the movie came out. Nobody ever said, I think Richie might be gay. I never heard that from anybody because no one was thinking of it. And to me, that is because the directors did not even think of that themselves. It's just something that they thought of and they put it in when they wrote up the second movie or they started working on the second movie. And at that point, it comes off as like an afterthought or something you just shoehorned in and you didn't really double down on, which is what I feel about it. It's just something that Richie is dealing with, but I feel like a small hint. One of the small hints they could have done. Now I totally get even if you're gay as a kid, you can still find a woman attractive. I get it, but I think one of the small hints is he's not that into Beverly, especially when they're all checking her out. Like maybe he looks away. But then again, that would have really ruined. That wouldn't have made that scene. Doing that would have ruined that scene a little bit, and it wouldn't have been as good as it was because it was great how they're all ogling her. So that could have been used as a small hint, but I'm glad they didn't do that. I just kind of wish they had done something to indicate that he might be gay, like something to make it that puts it in our head. Like, do you think he might be gay?
I mean, yeah, I was surprised because, like I said, even if they do come out and say, like, well, we did do subtle hints, they were really, really subtle. They were so subtle that nobody talked about that possibility. But yeah, I think it was a good choice for the character. It was surprising. It was a good thing to do, and they pretty much did all but say it. But yeah, I think for me, like I said, it makes, like you said at the beginning, that most people will say, and I'm one of those people who would say, well, okay, now looking back at chapter 1, I can kind of see where his dick jokes and his sex jokes and stabs can come from kind of hiding that thing. But it's also one of the reasons why I'm kind of upset about the flashback sequences that didn't happen in chapter 1, because had they actually done all those scenes in chapter 1, we could have gotten that hint.
Yeah,
because Richie with the other guy at the arcade. Yeah, but overall, I think the Richie character being gay, I think I kind of agree with you that it would have been more powerful had he, after they jumped into the quarry and he kind of just mentioned like the whole reason why he was like that and why he didn't want to leave and stuff like that. And him saying like, I'm gay, I loved him, and then he broke down and then they started consulting it.
Yeah, and then leading up to what he says, I'm tired of being afraid, I'm tired of hiding this, and I want to tell y'all because you're my friends and I love you guys, and then he tells them, and then it's like, and then the confidence is powerful, and I think it was just a missed opportunity. I thought this was a really good movie. It's really enjoyable. It's worth watching. It just doesn't measure up to the first one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and that's because it leans too much on it, and which is unfortunate. But it still has some decent scares, and I feel like it had some definitely really good moments.
Yeah, I give this rating a 7 out of 10.
Same here, 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
The first one for me is a 9.
Yeah,
Same
same.
there, perfect.
Yeah.
So cool. I can't believe you got the same score on
Yeah.
both movies.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So
It's
yeah.
crazy. Never happens. That's it for our review. What did you guys think of It Chapter 2? Let us know in the comments below. What did you like about it? What you did not like about it? Could they have done certain things better? And for all you book readers, what did you guys think of the movie? Because we'd like to know that too. Until next time.
We're out.